Morning, guys. Welcome to our podcast, number 995 million. Today, we're here with James, very good friend of ours, both Stu and I. We met him through a men's mental wealth group, sorted us both out, but we'll come to that at the end. Anyway, with me today is my old mutter, Stu. Hello, Stu.
Good morning.
James is pointing the wrong way. Look, you've got to do it opposite when you're on screen. Remember,
no,
on
my screen, I'm pointing at Stu, funny enough.
So yeah, you're putting your finger up my nose.
Yeah, to me, you're pointing at Duggy.
Well, on my Stu, I'm tickling Stu's nipple on mine.
I'm scratching your head, James.
By the way, guys, James's wife's got a beautiful voice. We may get her to sing.
Over.
Yeah, but that's only when he kicks her in the balls, though, isn't it?
Up in the basement. You better shut up. Wait, stop that. Cut that bit.
Right, James, let's get down to this, my friend. You're like me and Stu. We're all West Ham fans. Why was it West Ham for you?
So, growing up in East London, so I was born in Forest Gate Hospital, so literally a stone's throw away from Upton Park. And my dad was West Ham, and my dad was my hero at that age. However, it was going over there with my dad for the first time that I understood, I understood what West Ham was about, and it was just being on the chicken run, and for the first time in my little life, just experiencing like loads of men just going at this thing that I was also in love with at that point. I loved football from as far back as I can remember, and it was just seeing people like you and Stu drop the C-bomb, which I'd never heard because I was raised in a really Christian household. So I was like, oh, what's this new word? Like, rhymes with James Blunt, people, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And it was just like, I want to come back here. And that was it. Oh, I didn't say it. I said rhymes.
No. So what was your first game that you actually remember going to?
God, the first game. I don't know, who was we playing? I don't know who was. I'll be honest with you, and I've said this to off cameras when we've chatted in the past. I remember going over Upton Park, right? Like I said, at the chicken run, being absolutely tiny. But I don't remember like as much as what was going on the pitch. I was encapsulated by the environment, the atmosphere, the energy of the West Ham people, and it was going in and out of the ground. And my earliest memory, for some reason, Nottingham Forest. I mean, it was years ago, but I'm sure it was Nottingham Forest. But I can't, like I said, I can't remember the match. I can remember the experience of being there and what that meant to me. That's never left me. And that's the biggest part of why I'm West Ham. It was Upton Park. It was the people.
Do you remember your first match, Joe?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What was yours?
The 1975 Cup final.
Against Fulham.
Yeah, because up until then, I mean, I was just I didn't support a particular team. I just liked football, and you know yourself back then in the 70s, it was all Leeds and Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, you know, people like that, Arsenal. So Man United, you tend to just follow football, you know, and then. It was my godfather. My godfather took me to the 75 Cup final. He was a big Fulham fan. Even though my family from Bethnal Green, my godfather was a Fulham fan. And he took me to that, expecting me to become a Fulham fan. But I walked out of that, claret and blue. I walked out of there as a West Ham fan. You know, so.
Good game. But going back to Alan Taylor, he scored in the last 4 rounds. He got 2 goals in every round and in the final.
Look,
now we got him from Rotterdam.
It was just a shame. I saw Bobby Moore play, but not for West Ham. I saw him play for Fulham.
Yeah, the end of his career, wasn't it? Mine was 1967. We lost 6-1 to Man United at home, and it was funny really because normally your dad makes you. My dad. Because of what happened in 58 to Man United and the Busby Bays, my dad was really a Man United fan. And he was always buying me. I remember getting a George Best kit. I can't remember how young I was. And someone sewing the 7 on, you know, you didn't get it with the names years ago. Yeah. But it was always really, for me, going over West Ham. And once you get the buzz, you can't get it from there. Do you, James, like, and I don't want to go into the soulless bowl theory. And the difference between Upton Park and the current ground, the London Stadium, whatever you want to call it, what do you think the link is that's missing?
it's hard not to say the soul, mate. I'm not going to call that the soulless bowl. But for me, like I said, going over West Ham, genuinely, and I mean, how we met, when I met you two, and I had times individually with both of us where we spoke about old times being over West Ham. And like I said, it was like a reattachment to be around yous, and because it was going back to, you can't, I've always said to people, that's why I can't imagine supporting another team unless you experienced Upton Park on one of them days where every single person is out of their seat singing, chanting. It don't matter, we're losing, like, but and then one of them days where we're losing and we start coming back, and all of a sudden that we was already cheering anyway, because we're like, and that's the thing, we were the 12th man, we got behind the team. That's why I went over Upton Park. It was to really feel like I'm part of this. Like I'm around all these. I've never had a season ticket. I used to go over regularly, and back then you could, as a kid, you could get through the styles, all sorts, like without paying, and like it was the energy, and that was if I talk to my mates who we all grew up with, we was all living in Forest Gate at this point, so we could walk to the ground, and it's all of that. It's everything I'm saying now is what's missing from the current setup. Like, it's logistically, Upton Park, it was in the community. Like, it weren't part of some big flash complex. It was in the community of markets, and like, it was just part and parcel. You could walk in from different angles. Like,
you were surrounded by West Ham fans
everywhere.
That's
West Ham
what you were
people.
Surrounded. It was exactly. It was West Ham people, East End people. That's what you were surrounded by. And we all know the camaraderie that the East End has.
Mate, the chants, we got the best chants in the world, West Ham. Like, all of that's gone. Remember when people, you knew a chant over Upton Park has just been made up because something's just happened. But within a minute, you've got everyone singing this chant. Like that, it's all of that stuff that's missing. And Doug, I say that for me is the soul of West Ham. It was the walking.
Did we need to progress? Like, we got told by the board, like, you know, if you want to forget whether we got there or not. Did we really need a bigger stadium?
Need is a strong. Would I have wanted? Because Upton Park was always full. It got to a stage, I remember in my later years of going over Upton Park, it got to a stage where it was harder to get in. Obviously, things changed. So I would say there was a need. But was there a need to go elsewhere? No, because there's definitely scope for the fact that they could have, if they wanted to, they could have built on Upton Park.
Yeah, could have expanded.
That's not a maybe. We know that's the case. They could have built on Upton Park. But I feel the need was to allow more. And this is another thing. So we've moved, when people say it's a progressive move to the London Stadium to get more fans in, what you would have got at Upton Park, even if you'd have boosted it by another 10,000, would have been 10,000 young, proper West Ham kids and their families coming in, because that's that ground. You know, when you went into Upton Park, it was the East End. You might get the odd person here or there, but it was the East End, and everyone. I remember me coming through. Then I remember my younger brothers lot coming through. Like, it was all proper West Ham. That's gone. Now over the London.
Yeah, but James, sorry, Stu. Go on, Stu. You first. Sorry.
I was just about to say, but for me, it started to change even at Upton Park when they redeveloped it, when they got rid of the terraces and made the Bobby Moore stand and the Trevor Brookings stand, and they got rid of the terraces. It all become all-seater. I mean, and you had a McDonald's section up the top for kids and everything. It to me, the atmosphere started to change then. You could see, I suppose, thinking back, you could see which way that they were going to go. It was going to go more corporate at the end of the day. That's what they were aiming for, and that's what they've done now by moving us to, well, that shithole. Sorry for swearing, Duggy, but that's exactly what I think it is.
I think, look, if you look, James, is not the last season when we beat United in our last game there. The season before, you could walk over there and get a ticket, right? You could always get in, not the big games, but the so-called big teams, whatever you want to call them, you could get a ticket, right? 1920. I always remember there was a newspaper, for those you don't remember it, called the News of the World. And you'd look the next day, wouldn't you? And it would say what the attendance was over West Ham. And like you said, James, you couldn't get a fag paper in it. And they'd go, there was 19,000 there. We knew there was another 16,000 that went in someone's pockets. But look, this is ever since we've started this channel, right? I have really gone into the finances of different bits of going on, right? Now, whether you like Sullivan and Brady or not, right? The football that we know as it is at the moment, it's finished. It's gone, right? There was only one way, whether we like it or not, within the next 20 years, unless now is the time for there's 20 clubs that make up the Premier League. They've all got a vote, right? So there's someone working for them 20 teams to make that a business, to make more money for them. Now, the Super League, as they tried to get a couple of years ago, which they wanted to go, didn't they? And it got voted out, right? It's coming. Whether it's a Super League, whether it's a World League, it's coming. Now, the Premier League at that point will start to get left behind, and it will become a bit like the Championship. Right now is the time where the 14 other clubs, not this, I don't know why, look where Spurs are, look where Man United are, really look where Chelsea is, why they think they're the top 6 clubs. If it's on just fans and attendances alone, then we're the second behind Man United. So hence the reason why we needed a bigger stadium, because it's all going to be taken over by American investment companies, American banks. They're buying the clubs, coming in bit by bit by bit. And we've looked at the money coming in. I don't want to bore everyone with it, but the 500 million people watch American football, and it brings in 50 billion a season, 50 billion. The Premier League is watched by 3.5 billion people worldwide, which is 3 billion people more, but it only generates 6.4 billion. So there's 44.6 billion. So that's why you're getting a lot of these investment companies in. So whether we like it or not, it's coming. Right, whether it's a World League, whether it's a European League, and football as we know it has gone. What we need to try and do, the Amish United, they got the concessions with the fans, but what they need to do now is start changing the Premier League. Going, you can go, hypothetically, Liverpool, they win the title, you can go, but when you go, you pay the Premier League, we'll say the Premier League 2 as we might call it. The 6 that go, you've got to pay 100 million each. And every part of your earnings, forever how long you're in these leagues, you've got to put 10% back down into leagues, because the money still needs to come down to grassroots football, into the Championship, all the way down to the conferences, so that these teams survive. It's worried me for a long time now that we're going to lose someone. Like one club at some point, I think Bury was the last one that went. We spoke to a Brighton fan last week. Literally, they was, I think, 10 minutes away from going in the conference, and that would have probably been the end of them. So for me, do I like the stadium? I hate it. I went and picked my mum up last week. I went to the UK for 3 days and went over Westfield. I come back. I thought, shall I have some pictures done next to the stadium? I felt nothing. I didn't want to get out. I didn't want to have me sign with the underneath. My mum had a bucket list. She wanted to go, so I took my mum a while back. And my wife has not been very well. She wants to go, so I'll go. But it don't interest me in going there. But for the future of football, lots of things need to change. And I do think that's possibly one of the reasons. Like, it's not, forget football as football anymore. It's a business. What we think it is, it's gone. Them days are finished. You know, the corporate packages are here to stay. But it's a soulless bowl. For me, they could do a lot more for the kids. Unfortunately, we don't own anything. We haven't got an asset. We've got our name, we've got our merchandise, our advertising rights, and we've got a training ground. That's it. That's West Ham. You know, we haven't got anything. You know, if you look at Spurs, every match game they draw in 900,000 through the food and drink, the beverages. That's what they get per game. They draw in. So when they say the London Stadium that they're paying for this, the LDC, of course they are, but they're also gaining money back on what they do, the money they gain from all the food and everything else. I can't believe the taxpayer, believe it or not, still wants to pay for the repairs of the London Stadium.
I don't think they want to pay for it. They just got no choice.
Of course, they've got a choice. They've always got a choice because it's been paid by the London Dockland Development Company.
But when the deal was made, you know, like the ordinary taxpayer, the ordinary taxpayer hasn't got a choice where your tax money goes. And if they want
to, they can make arms about it.
And then that's why, it's not going to change. And at some point, they will turn around and say it's a big drain on us, the London itself, not the council.
I agree.
And
I agree.
And I think that's what Sullivan and Brady are hoping. They're hoping that they turn around and say, you can either have it or give us 10 million and it's yours. It's yours, And that clears
too much land in there. So if that would have been done, we'd have been bought out now, Stu. Someone would have bought it.
There is so much land on that island that would come with it, and then
it's terrible to get in and out, though, Stu, isn't it? The infrastructure.
But that's the thing. If you had it, you'd have to knock that place down for a start because it's not a football stadium. You'd have to knock it down and rebuild a purpose-built football stadium. And I think 50,000, 55 at a push would be plenty. That would be filled week in, week out. Plus, there'd be all the land around it because you wouldn't take up such a bigger footprint.
No, I think they can build a ground within the ground. My problem is kids. There's not enough there to interest kids. Both my grandsons at West Ham, and they don't want to go. They go now, family game.
My kids, like especially Billy, he used to love his birthdays up at the bowling ground. He used to have his birthday parties up there, and he'd always meet some player. I mean, that's why he always wore goalkeeper jerseys because he met Ludo. Ludo coming to one of his birthday parties, and met the kids and everything, and from that day on, my Bill wouldn't wear any football shirt apart from a West Ham goalkeeper.
Yeah, he's one of my favourite keepers, Ludo. Sadly, not well these days. He's stopped having treatment. So he's on borrowed time now, Ludo. Yeah. Right, James. Let's bring up to the date now. First of all, we forgot to say that James has got his own channel, which we forgot about, which is called, Stu.
That West Ham channel? What West Ham channel, James?
That West Ham channel.
He runs it with a very lovely lady called Kez, Louis and Sam. Now, I've been watching a few of yours recently, and I find they're quite negative. So if anybody wants to turn off now and don't want to see me and James come to blows, now's the time to turn off. Bit of blood. I've got Stu to back me up. He's taller than me. Why are you so negative about the team and recently as well, Mr. Potter? Do you not think he's had enough? I don't think he's had enough time.
Well,
James,
first and foremost, let's start with the Potter thing. So this next bit, what I'm about to say, this is only targeted at people that not at this stage 3 games ago were screaming Loppy out, right? This is targeted you because I ain't a hypocrite. The reason I am now piss off Potter, right? Because he's got a worse points per game ratio than Lopetegui. Facts. We've still, after finding out 3 games ago that we were bottom of the league, shots on goal, expected goal, shots off target, attacking progressive passes, like we were rock bottom behind everyone else. 3 games later, we've gone down. So we're still at the bottom, but one thing improved slightly, shots off target, but we're still rock bottom. So again, the football was better under Lopetegui. And how bad is that to say? It was better in regards to what I class as football, which is scoring goals. Because here's a fun fact, kids. Being able to stop all the goals in the world don't win your matches. It might get you a draw. The only way you win matches is if you actually score goals. And to score goals, you have to create chances. We're rock bottom of everything.
You have to shoot on target.
You have to shoot on target. You have to play a striker.
But who's joint top scorers in our team this season?
Souček, I think he's got to be.
Souček. Yeah, but you don't want Souček. You see, now Souček and Bowen are both on 7. We've scored 33 goals this season, which works out about 1 point something per game. But listen, before we're going to come to Souček with him, and in a team, now we will come back to this. I don't think we've got a good squad, right? I think we're still playing with 9 of David Moyes' team. That at the end of David Moyes, I think every manager has a lifespan, no matter who you are or how good you are. I think Postecoglou is walking on thin ice. I don't think Pep will stay at Man City forevermore. And if Amorim doesn't win anything, he could be gone in one season. You know, and look what's happened to him. And we wanted him down there. But in every team, you need, I call it a stopper, right? You need someone there. Someone that don't get noticed. Someone that does all the donkey work. You look at McGinn at Aston Villa, niggly little player, right? But he's the cog of that team. I can't think of his name. Hughes at Crystal Palace. He's in there. Look at the Nottingham Forest team. We could have got a Langer. I watched him run the full length of the pitch the other night to score against Man United. We had the chance of getting him when Man United didn't want him. We could have got him for peanuts, but we had no interest in getting him. We've not actually had what we would call a striker who would really give, what I would say, a good chance in alongside. The highest paid player in our team is Danny Ings. We don't see what goes on in training, right? He's on 6.5 million a year, right? He's the highest paid player, and he didn't play under Moyes, he didn't play under Lopetegui, and he's not playing under Potter. Now, what is going on there? Who sanctioned that signing for a start off? Why would you give someone, make him the highest paid player at the club ever, and not play him? But for me, Souček has to be in the team because he breaks it up. If you look back at Souček when Man United wanted to pay 60 million for him, he was the centre midfield player that got forward, right? Declan Rice, why Arsenal don't play him as the sitting CDM, as I call it, yeah. But he was always the last man. When Cresswell got beat, especially down the left, Declan Rice was there to clear up, and he saved us so many times. And Souček went forward and scored loads of goals. All of a sudden, halfway through that last couple of seasons under Moyes, Rice went, I want to go forward. Like, I want Souček to sit. Souček, he does 5 or 6 passes, complete passes a game. He's not that sort of player. He can't play long balls. He's there as a stopper. He gets his head on something. He gets his foot in somewhere. But he gets in the right positions. But it wasn't his fault that Moyes changed the system and pushed Rice forward, which really totally mucked up Souček's game. But as it is at present, I actually think that Souček deserves his place in the game. If you look at the Wolves game the other night, the 2 players that changed the game for West Ham that made us actually look like we could score was Falkirk, whatever his name is, the German guy, right? Come on, hasn't played for what, 3-4 months, right? 33-year-old, and Souček. They got into the right places. We played Ferguson, who wants the ball to feet. So in the first half, the team have got to play to ball to feet. We brings on Falkirk, and then we've got to play the ball to his head because that's where he's better in the air. But I don't get why we've got such a bias at the moment against Souček, James. Stu, what do you think first? Sorry.
See, I'm torn with the man. He's a brilliant box crusher. That I wouldn't start him. I think Souček's the sort of player like the other night. He gets brought on 20, 25 minutes to go if you need something. But he doesn't give us nothing. As you say, Duggy, it's the midfield that runs the game. If you 100%. Haven't got a midfield, you're pony. Yeah, if you ain't got a midfield. And that's what we haven't got, a midfield with Souček in there. Because like I say, he can't make a pass. He's lucky if he does 5 complete passes a game, unless he's 2 feet away from someone. Right? He's good at blocking and he's good at box crashing. But between the 2 boxes, he's a waste of space. You don't need, you don't want him in there. Look at Ward-Prowse the other night. Why on earth was Ward-Prowse out there when Alvarez is sitting on the bench? Another one, Ward-Prowse. He come to us, when he was originally come to us, he was getting goals and he was getting assists. But then all of a sudden, he's gone pony. Right? And the other night, I mean, to be quite honest, if I was a sniper, I would have took him out. Just to get him off that park because he was.
But he doesn't pick the system, Stu. The manager picks the system.
Yeah, but I don't think Ward-Prowse would fit in any of our systems now. I just don't think he's a Premier League player. Ward-Prowse.
We didn't get in the Forest side when they took him for a season.
And I'm much to say, I'm saying with Souček now, he's not a Premier League player. I don't think he's good enough to be in a Premier League team. That he's not. You need, as you say, you need a midfield that can function and run the game. Because without that midfield, Look what's happening to us. Look what's happening to us. We're getting worse week in, week out. You know, one shot on target we had the other night against Wolves. Souček missed a bloody sitter. That donkey Ferguson should be put in a box and sent back to Brighton and say, you know what you can do with him? You go and stick him down on a pier as an ornament, because that's all he is. He's just an ornament. Stick him in a shirt, stick him on the end of the pier as an ornament. Because he didn't run. I didn't see him run 6 paces. He can't move. And you know,
he's injured, Stu. I think he's playing.
Yeah, that's what Darren said, my mate, the Brighton fan. He's been injured for ages, and he keeps being played, and he shouldn't be. He needs junking and sorting his. I don't think he's ever going to come back, because I think he's permanently injured. And
coming in, James. What do you think of Mr. Souček?
Listen, well, I've got to go back because you started this question. It was, why do I think West Ham are negative at the minute and about Potter? Well, this Souček ties into this whole conversation. So first and foremost, Stu just articulated that is exactly how I feel about Souček. I don't change everything you just said. That sums up for me what it's not what I think. Thomas Souček is just the name of a human being that I'm watching play a game. There's nothing against him. Nothing.
No, exactly.
But like you just said a minute ago, like you said about, you asked me why, Duggy, I'm talking here, about why I'm negative about Potter. And then when Stu explained about JWP, you went straight to a root problem. It's not him, it's the system, it's the coach. And so far, our coach on performance, he's more inept at playing football than our previous coach. And the stats back that up. That's not me having a go at Potter. What I don't like with Potter is this whole thing where just because old Julian was Spanish, oh no, and he couldn't give a good interview and he wasn't that warm, we all completely tore him a new one. And then just because Potter comes in, he's got a psychology degree and he talks really well, and he's just as bad, if not worse, on statistics. Now, that's on statistics. We can have our opinions on what we think of style of play, but on stats, factually, Potter's worse than Loppy. That's not an argument. That's just what it is. Now, the biggest problem with Souček is I blame the coaches, because each coach that have played Souček in that centre midfield, and you've got to understand, Declan Rice, no wonder he'd had enough. He carried Souček for 2 seasons. In regards to work on the pitch involved in play, he was all over the park carrying Thomas Souček. And then you're seeing Thomas Souček, who he's probably looking at thinking, you donkey, I've been running for you for the last 80 minutes, gate crash a goal. Well, Dec's looking at Souček thinking, I'm much better than you. All round, I'm much better than you. And I'm having to do your donkey work. No, David Moyes, you need to have a word. Like he's had a word, and I don't blame Dec for doing that. And you say about him playing CDM and everything, I agree. But since he's been at Arsenal, he's banging them in. He's still doing the defensive work. You look at his statistics, he's still performing not only on that defensive level, but he's scoring more goals now. So he's actually gone on to prove his point at, I'm sorry to say this, a better footballing club than West Ham. Definitely at the moment, for sure. They are way better at football.
We had an Arsenal fan on, James, funny enough, a couple of weeks ago. And just before we start, I said to him, what do you think?
Play better football than we do.
And he's there, Rice. He's in the right positions and he's steady. He says, but as for being a world-class player, he went, he said, like, why we paid 100 million for him? He said, I don't know. But look, when we've had Moyes played his system, how he played it, and as Moyes got into his last tenure, we've got to come to the last 3 because there's still 9-10 of these players that are Moyes players that are playing every week, right? So Moyes eventually did become so defensive. All he was worried about was not conceding, wasn't it? And hoping we scored on the breaks. And why we played Antonio on the left, we're talking about giving him another year's contract. There's no sympathy or loyalty to him football. He's had his time and he should be gone. I'm sorry what happened to him, Antonio. But it's time for him to move on. So then we had Moyes playing his style. Don't forget the 9-10 of players. Then we had Lopetegui come in. And the problem with Lopetegui, James, is he wouldn't learn. He wouldn't learn. And we was getting so... I don't get when, especially I used to play in defence, like when we defend I don't know if you noticed, very narrow. And under Lopetegui, he wanted to push the fullbacks on, which Wan-Bissaka was really good at. He expected Corral to do it on the other side. But then when they was in transition and they was attacking us, we didn't seem to want to go out and intercept the players till they was sort of coming towards level with our penalty area. We was giving them all the space on the left, all the space on the right, and we was constantly being outnumbered, as we was in the Brentford game under Potter as well. 'Cause at one point we had 3 back and they had 5 attacking us. But he didn't learn. When you want a new system, no matter who the players are, it takes time. But also in defence, as I've said this to Stuart, and Stuart said to me, I just want to go away from West Ham. You know, Amorim come in as the best thing since sliced bread. You know, they spent millions, nothing to do with him. But they lost the Argentine defender. Martinez, is it his name, Martinez? The centre-back. Right. Before they had him, you could see him organising, going, look, he wants us to play the 3-5-2. Move up. You've got to go. You've got to go. And hence the reason Aaron Cresswell has been in the team recently, because he's saying to the fullbacks, you've got to go. You've got to go. Leave us here. Systems don't work out overnight. You've had 3 different managers in the space of a year, all trying their different systems. And if the players don't understand the system, it doesn't matter who you put in them positions. And I couldn't care less where we finish this year, by the way, because I think if we finish 4th from bottom, it's where I predicted when you asked at the beginning of the season. I said it's a big transition season. I think this is where it finished. And I don't think we've got that great players. I think we've got Kudus, don't want to be there. I think we've got the German guy. I keep getting his name. What's his name, Stu? He don't want to be there.
Fulkrug.
You know, Fulkrug, you know, he don't want to be there. We've not had a decent striker. I think the last person who got 30 goals for us over was David Cross in 81, got 33. So even in our 85-86 season with Cotty and McAvenny, we can't seem to buy a striker or just get someone in, go get in the 6-yard box, which we play the inverted wingers, and which does my head in, because we know Bowen's going to cut in, and 99% of the time he ain't going to pass it. He's going to try and get it onto his left foot and shot. We played Kudus on the other side. We've ruined him. Kilman, for me, gets a free run because, you know, me and Stu fall out a lot over Mavropanos. But for me, was Kilman worth 40 million? No, he weren't. So, like, there's literally 7 of that team that played the other night are there. You're not good enough for West Ham. So I think this season, for me, is part of the right man, James. I think being out of football for 2 years, football changes. I'd like to see us, if we keep him, I'd like to see Paqueta playing a bit of clock football. And I'd like Arteta, what's his name in the middle? Alvarez, and I'd like Paqueta staying there as a sitting CDM with them two and hitting long diagonals to whoever we got, Bowen on the right, someone on the left, a bit like Liverpool did with Salah and Mane, weren't it, all them times ago, and do some counter-attacking football. But at the moment, we just haven't got the players to do it. And for whatever reason, we don't want to use the youth. I don't know why. But at the moment, we're just not good enough. And if you look at I wrote these down yesterday when I said if you look at the goals, there's only all the teams down the bottom. Southampton minus 49, Leicester 42, Ipswich 33, Wolves minus 17, goal difference. Us minus 17, Everton minus 5. There's only one other team on a minus goal difference, believe it or not, which is Man United, which are above Spurs. But the league never lies. It tells you where you are. And it doesn't matter which manager we've been under. We've made really, really poor buys. And I've got nothing against Danny Ings. A bit like Maxwell Cornet. If you held a picture up and 4 pictures and went, which one is Maxwell Cornet? I wouldn't even know which one he was, because I don't think we ever got a chance to see him, this young Brazilian guy. But it must be what they see in training that doesn't play him. What can we do, basically, then, to change it around? What football would you like to see? Name a team, James. Would you like to see us change things around?
Well, mate, there was so much to unpack there. So I'll just address the last bit. I think, in fact, I'll start.
That's the reason to write it all down, James.
Yeah. There's loads of points there to go through. But what I would say is this. I think it's agreed across the board that where West Ham have lost this season has been in midfield. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. Everyone accepts that we've had no legs in the centre of the park the whole season. And that don't matter whether it's David Moyes prior to this season starting or Lopetegui or Potter. Irrelevant. It's again, just looking at it from that standpoint, is we've got no legs in midfield. Which, to be honest, is my problem with Souček. But just to go to the team that I'd like to see, I'm going to stick with, only because I think this makes it realistic. So Potter seems to be quite hell-bent on this three at the back. He seems to be that. So, for example, the other night, how I would have changed it. First and foremost, in an ideal world, you've got, and I'll even go off current players, so not people that are injured. Debo, Kilman, and I would start Mavropanos over Cresswell in a back three, personally.
Agree.
I would take Mavropanos over Cresswell, because Cresswell's one thing he has definitely not got is legs. And unfortunately, in this day, and how have we been torn apart this season? Look at the goals. People just run past us. They run through our midfield and then they pick a wing and then they go down there because either Skulls or AWB are out or they're up and they go down. Hence Chelsea, they done it against Mavropanos, in fairness, against when we played Chelsea. But my point is, I would stick with that back three, personally. Well, once he comes back, P off Mavropanos, I'd have Nath Agurd, who he's apparently he's coming back to West Ham. I'd have him in. But off the current three, that's my back three. Left wing back Skulls, let him play, let him develop. Stop dropping him. At this stage, he should be starting him. All this stuff about kids, they need a... No, they don't. At that age, at the age he's at, his body is growing all of the time. That is when you can... I'm not saying this is a good thing, but I'm sure all of us did it. Remember when we were 16, 17, 18, 19, you got an injury, your ankle will blow up. 2 days later, you're playing football again. Like, it's not the best thing in the world, but your body is built at that stage to develop, plus all the testosterone and all this argument about him needing the rest, bollocks. He needs to play. And on the right, AWB. And now, this for me is where this changes everything about Potter's current... I don't know what Potter ball is, but what I've seen thus far, is defensive ball, is Alvarez on his Jackie Jones CDM. No one else with it. No double pivot, no JWP, no Souček, just Alvarez, like when he first came into the West Ham team, and he was immense. And that's when everyone was talking about, well, we're going to build our team around Alvarez, is because he sort of cleared up the depth problem in regards to he was a general in front of the back line. He really was. Then in front of him, I would put, on current team, I would put Paqueta, and I would actually put Soler as the two to play then football. Because guess what? They're footballing centre midfielders. They can play that role, have done their whole careers. Then in front of them, I would have Kudus and Bowen fluid. Because we're playing this wing-back system, if you're going to play a wing-back system, play it properly. Your wing-back should be getting down the line and putting balls in the box. That's why you play a wing-back system. So then you've got the likes of Bowen and Kudus, which I agree with you, Duggy, in an ideal world, but this is Potter world. I don't want them inverted, but bring them in slightly tighter then and let them be fluid. And then I would stick Fulkrug in front of them. That for me is how I'd play the game. Yeah. And I'd say to my wing-backs, Scholes and to AWB, get down the line, put it in the box. Like, give the striker an opportunity to show us what his strength is. And then you've got behind that, because Fulkrug can hold the ball up. He can lock the ball down. Look at that lovely layoff he done to Souček the other night when he stuffed it. Yeah. He's got that in the locker. That's when you've got Bowen and Kudus as a real benefit, slightly inverted. Because if he can hold that ball up and can't get a shot, but can lay it off to either Bowen or Kudus coming in, then there's goals there. With them,
he can also head the ball, can't he? He can also head the ball.
And that header, the way he pulled that header back when it was coming slightly behind him the other night, and he knew he had to get enough on it to get that loop, and he was only beaten by the crossbar.
But James, most strikers score in the 6-yard box. But if you're going to have balls coming over, right, you've got to have players coming late from midfield. So that we have to strike a balls on away.
That's for me is Bowen and Kudus every day over Souček, because for the 87 or 88 minutes of him not scoring a goal, that 1 minute where he turns into Dennis Bergkamp in the box, and don't get me wrong, some of the finishes Souček does in the box, it's the biggest contradiction in the world, because how can he have a touch like a fucking freaking genius in the box, swivel, bosh, bottom corner, but then you give him a 6-yard pass for 84 minutes throughout the game and he scuffs every one? Don't make any sense. That 1 minute of magic don't make up for the other 89 minutes of him being a complete waste of spinny space on the pitch. That's my problem with Souček as well. So, yeah, I agree with you, Doug. Someone coming in, absolutely, but not having to rely on Souček. He's not the only one in the world that can come in and finish a ball. I think Kudus and Bowen could play that role as well, personally. And then you're not missing out on a centre midfielder, which we've all agreed, centre midfield, we've lost our season. Our season's been lost in centre midfield. Part of the problem is because you've been playing JWP and Souček, who cannot keep up with a Premier League paced game. Neither of them. And when we try to slow it down and play Potter ball, because the only thing I can tell you Potter ball is at the minute is slow. It is slow.
It is slow, James. But if you look at JWP, James, right, and listen, why on earth we let him take every free kick and every corner when we've got Aaron Cresswell on the pitch, who I think has got a far better cross. He's the best crosser and probably the best free kick player we've got. We're far too slow. In transition, we're just cross, back to the goalkeeper, cross, back to the goalkeeper. And it's just dross. We need to get going quicker. And the tippy-tappy football is at its stage.
Well, look at that silly triangle the other night with Wolves that they were doing at the back.
Ariola,
Mavroponi, and Wan-Bissaka. They're playing this
unbelievable.
Try back. What the?
Always triangle. Football is about triangles. So it's always going to be triangles.
Trying to play out from the back like that is absolute dross.
It is terrible. And then they hoofed it anyway. And then all it does, tap, 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 hoof. Hoof to who?
Exactly.
Hoof to who? It's unbelievable. Do you know what? Someone said this. It was, who said this? Was it one of you two? Anyway, recently someone said about in the old day. Do you know the last partnership I really liked when it did work with Andy Carroll and Kevin Nolan? Do you remember them that worked because it was a foil, right? He's brilliant mustard in the air. He's like, he could flick it down on a nutshell and Nolan knew where to be. Yeah, then I get it. But when you're hoofing the ball to Bowen and Kudus, and you're a coach on the sideline standing there, and that's another thing, I'm sorry, but when you catch Potter looking on the side, like he looked clueless. Like you can see in his face, it's a white sheet of, I don't know what I'm doing. And we're watching.
I said the other night to my mate who was around watching the game, I said to him, look at Potter's face. He's stressed. He's only been in West Ham for a few games and he's stressed already. I don't think he can handle it.
Listen, he's been out the game for 2 years, Stu. I think we've got to write off this season and give him the start of next season at least. I do.
Totally disagree, bruv. Get him out now. I totally disagree. Get him gone. No. I would at this stage rather see Mark Noble in that dugout than Potter as an interim. Because what we need now, Potter don't get West Ham. He's another one. That's another thing. I said this to someone yesterday with Paolo. Shout out to Paolo. I said to him, I've realised Potter talked, and because he spoke perfect English and everything else, he talked a good West Ham, where he don't get West Ham. Currently, another thing which I'll back up with statistics, he don't know how to coach attacking football. And I'm sorry, there's got to be a balance. You can't just be a coach and know how to shore up a defence, but then know nothing about how to score a goal. That's worrying. For me, that is real. And I want him gone. I want him out of our club. And all those who say, oh, well, you just want to change again. No, listen, if you didn't shout for Lopetegui's head at this, because at this stage, everyone was like, get him out. Right? If you're not one of them, then fair enough, you can tell me where to go. But if you're one of them, but you're standing by Potter, considering that the football's got worse, we score less goals, we get less points per game, you ain't got a leg to stand on. You're racist. You don't like Spanish people. because that is the only difference between the two. Potter gives a good interview, Loppy didn't. But in regards to football, I actually miss shots on goal. Shots like we don't average 4 shots on goal a game. Wouldn't that be?
Guys, just 1 second before we go any further. I mean, I could do this with James and Stuart all day. Me and Stuart don't stop. We're like husband and wife. Me and Stuart, we don't agree on anything.
I'm like the son or the grandson.
Yeah, but before we go anything, the illegitimate son, Stuart had an affair and had James behind my back. Guys, before we go any further, like there's a couple of bits that I'd like to speak to James about. One is, firstly, your YouTube channel. Do you want to say a bit about your YouTube channel before we come back to the?
Yeah, so we've got that West Ham channel. That
what West Ham channel?
That West Ham channel. That's and it's a channel that we was part of another channel before. We was part of Claret and Booze, and what we wanted a breakaway where we wanted a channel for us that was a complete open narrative where people can like say, no, you're chatting a load of, and no one, like it be a debate. It can get passionate, but we don't want it where, we wanted a channel where for us it's a fans channel. That's what it is. That's why all of our shows we're trying to get on other fans, just like you lot are. We're trying to get as many people to leave messages. We try and engage with the comments all the time because we genuinely want to hear from West Ham people, have their say, and know that it's a safe space where it don't matter if you're Potter in, just because you hear me going, Potter out, blah, blah, blah. You can come in and say, no, Jay, you're talking a load of nonsense, Potter in, and I listen to your argument. Absolutely listen, because being able to disagree as West Ham fans, that's part and parcel of being a West Ham fan.
If we all thought the same, it'd be a boring world, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it be a boring world? Wouldn't it be a boring? So yeah, at that West Ham channel, and it's sort of to segue, Duggy, if we're going to go to My Safe Space route, at the end of each show on that West Ham channel, there's always a little shout out to our sister platform called My Safe Space, because I met you two lovely people in a support group that was a fantastic experience, which has now evolved obviously into this new platform called My Safe Space, which has got its own YouTube channel. More importantly, it's an online mental, physical well-being platform. It really is a cool place to be if you're basically someone who might be feeling a little bit lost, a little bit lonely. That's another thing as blokes. I know us three have spoken about that many a time, and we need to get back on that podcast. Stu, you've done a podcast around loneliness, because these are the things that, again, I realised for years. Another reason Upton Park was so special to me, it was a release. It was where I'd go to release all the stuff that I wouldn't tell no one else about. And that energy came out over Upton Park amongst what was labelled as strangers. I could just get it out of me. But then after that match was finished, I'd often go back into that world of my mind, which wasn't a nice place for a long time for many different reasons. So over the years of what I do professionally, I wanted to build something that was affordable to everyone, because it's a £10 charge for My Safe Space per month. So it works out, I think it's about 33p a day. I strongly feel you get a lot for your money in regards to what you get delivered over in that platform. And it is, as I said, what it said on the tin, it's a safe space. It's for where men and women, and we've got a lovely split. There is pretty much an equal split of men and women from all different backgrounds.
So we've both subscribed from the beginning, haven't we? So
yeah, used to have been with me on this journey now for over a year now. I think it's over a year now from when we actually first met.
In February. It was a year in February.
And that's for me why I like the West Ham link. Obviously, that's just for West Ham fans, but it's trying to reach people like yourselves. When I first called up online on the live show, and I gave my story and everything else, and it got a response from people, not because it's a glamorous story or I tried to tell it in some. It was just because it was an authentic story where people went, "Oh my God, I've been through that," or "I've experienced that," and it's like someone's talking about it. And that's the thing. My safe space is that. It's the space where you can come and not be judged. You ain't got to come on camera. You might want to get involved with just being there, listening to others to start with, which is how it normally works. And then all of a sudden at the end, someone goes, "Well, can I say something?" Yeah, of course you can. and they'll often say, do you know what? I didn't know what to expect tonight, and I didn't think I'd be saying what I'm saying now. But I just needed to say thank you to that person for sharing what they did, because it's something that I've struggled with. And you know, we talk about real topics like, you know, Duggy, loneliness, Stu, grief, you know, abuse. It's real stuff. It's real gritty, and yeah, I'm really proud of it, and I'm proud that I've got you two as me mates now, as friends, as that I've met through the whole support arena, and for everyone else, the brethren, for everyone that was part of that journey. I ain't gone anywhere. So my safe space is always there. You can touch in. It's a 24-hour platform. You can touch in whenever you want, leave a message. And someone, if not myself, got the lovely Kerry over there as well, who's helping out. Sam and Louie help with the addiction. And you got these two fine gentlemen as well. It's a nice place. So yeah, that's the My Safe Space platform.
Guys, what we'll do, we'll get Tony to stick James's number on the bottom of this. I've got to say, from a personal point of view, he's grossly underselling himself here. Done a lot of things for me. You know, my wife's been ill, helped me through a really serious time. Stuart what happened to Stuart, you know, no parent wants to happen, you know, and I see Stuart at his lowest, and it was James that pulled him through to where we are. So he's also a cancer coach. So, you know, and a lot of people feel very, very lonely, especially at the most desperate of times. And they're the times really you need to get in someone who's trained to tell you what to do, you know, help me with different things while my wife's been ill. So he's undersold himself tremendously here. So if anyone has got any sort of worries about literally anything, and we all are scared at times to speak about men's mental health. Yeah. We had a group of 12 in our group, and there was 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks.
James give us the platform to express ourselves freely without fear of ridicule and people taking the piss. That man give us that platform to do that. If it hadn't been for him, and yourself, Duggy, I don't know where.
Mate, there's been people that's been suicidal that James has helped out.
Exactly.
So if you do get a chance,
there was a couple on our group that were like that. Original 12 that were like that, you know. And if it hadn't been for James, well, maybe they wouldn't be here now to this day. They'd be gone.
Yeah. All does Fat Boy Fast as well. I'm on the next one in May. So if you want to do one of these Fat Boy Fast or Fat Girl Fights, then
I'm glad you shouted that out, actually, people. I will take that as for a shameless plug. Yeah, I run 10-day fast 4 times a year. It's not just about weight loss. Yeah, you'll lose easy a stone. That's not what it's about, though. It's about feeling a sense of resilience and self-achievement that you've probably not felt in a long time for a lot of us. And you might think a fast is the last thing I need at this stage. No, it's actually the first thing.
Well, I'm fasting today, so
you do your intermittent. You've been doing that for months now, Stu. I mean, how much have you lost over the period that you started?
I've lost quite a bit. You know, it's got to be getting on nearly 4 stone.
Amazing. You know, we're talking in a year, roughly, aren't we?
Yeah. Well, no, I haven't been doing it that long, have I?
Not even that long. It's amazing.
Not even that long. You know, so I'll do 2 sets of 40 hours a week, so which totals 80 hours I fast for a week.
You'll have your speedos on when you come over here, mate.
With budgie smugglers.
I'm looking forward.
Guys, I've got to tell you, I've really been looking forward to this one. I was hoping me and James was going to get a bit more spicy, but I suppose because
we'll do another one. We'll do another one. Don't worry, we'll come back.
Yeah,
after
really
another couple of games, I'm sure I'm going to have.
We'll do an X-rated one. We'll have to do an X-rated one.
Do an X-rated one on James.
Well, you can come on my channel. On our channel, we don't give a monkeys, so we'll get you over there.
Kids would be finding us all, mate.
So also, mate, it's been really nice to have a friend on here. You know what I mean? To have a real mate, you know, really helped us through. We do stay in touch 2 or 3 times a week, and Stu and I stay in touch 2 or 3 times a day. Tony's off in an air balloon somewhere. He's off on a plane somewhere. He's off on a speedboat. He's off down tunnels. We never know where he is. So when he turns up, doesn't he?
Brilliant. Well, listen, I just want to say thanks for having me. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's just, I mean, it's normal for us, to be fair. I was speaking to you 2 yesterday on WhatsApp in this pretty much set up anyway. So yeah, it's easy. I'm so, as I said yesterday, I'm so glad that I made that phone call that day, because having you 2 now as friends has been, it's brilliant. We're all meeting up, obviously, as well in May, end of May, for something special for Duggy. Looking forward to that as well. So yeah, and this is the thing, right? this is the joy for me about being a West Ham fan is this bit, being able to share at the end of this chat where we've not agreed on everything, but what we do all agree on is the fact how important it is to basically, in layman's, to be open and to be kind and to not be ashamed of who we are and the fact that we do feel things as men especially, and being able to share whatever age we're at, however grisly we think we are, being able to share stuff. I tell you what, it's a game changer. It changes everything. It gives you back. For me, it gave me a new lease of life back in myself.
Yeah, I agree. Guys, before we go, one more thing before we give us our Stu. Don't forget, if you can, still try and sign up for Amas United. They've won their concessions battle with West Ham, which is a fantastic thing. Freeze on season ticket prices, obviously not putting the pensioners up in the gods or the kids. So if you can sign up from them, and if you look at our video, we did a fistful of dollars. It's absolutely amazing with Andy, mind-boggling when he told you. And hopefully, if you're interested in coming on any one of the shows, we want anyone from any walk of life, from any team, please get in touch and we'll have you on. Stu, baby, over to you.
Excuse me. Just to say that, it would be nice to put someone on from lower down the leagues, and I mean right lower down the leagues, you know, so we can get...
We've got a Notts County fan coming on, Stu, this week.
There we go. Perfect. Right. One more thing to say. Take care. Stay safe. Stay lucky, my friends. Come on, you irons.
That was really good, guys.
Still recording.